Hi there, I'm Marty Hampton. As my husband says, I'm a legend in my own mind because I'm the Marty Hampton. And I don't believe all my press, but what I do believe is that I will share with you everything that's taken me an awful long time to learn about in real estate. And I hope it will help your career as much as it's helped mine. So the first thing I want to say is you missed Deborah's shoes, and she really had some great shoes on today, so I'm sorry you missed that. So I want to tell you a little bit about me, but I want to start with the thing that I think most real estate agents, most team leaders, and most brokerages are doing, I don't want to say wrong, but they're doing average work. And it is by learning to play offense, not defense. I think most of us in this industry are still playing defense on a changing field, a market that's changing. And one thing I can tell you for sure is that when I was able to move out of production into really looking at the business, I noticed that we were reacting to what was happening to us instead of really having a game plan on how we could move down the field. So I wrote this for my team. I hope it helps you, but playing pure defense allows your opposition to control the situation, and going on offense forces them to react to you, which means that you are more in control of the situation. And is business really like playing on a sports team? In some cases, I think it really is. You do have competition. You do have new things coming into the market that are attracting people who would have done business with you. So we are in a competition with other agents, other brokerages, and we're in it to win it. At least that's what I'm in it to do. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my mindset on that. But first of all, I would tell you a little bit about me. I was in my 20s when I got into real estate. I was a single mother with 3 children to support, and I didn't type very fast. So I needed to figure out something really quick that was going to allow me to raise my children and have the money that they would need for things like braces and cars and insurance and all the things that you want for your children when they're growing up. And I was able to do that when I found real estate. Real estate really meant a lot to me because of what it enabled me to do for my why, which was my family, my children. It allowed not only the necessities like those braces and those college educations, but it allowed some other things too, like trips to Europe, cars, things that are not necessarily necessities, but things that you want for your family. So real estate really came to me at a time when I really needed it, and I was able to jump in and really do a good job financially for my children. So I would tell you that throughout the years, there's really a true statement, and that statement is that it's harder to stay at the top than it is to get to the top. And we've been fortunate to be the #1 seller of resale homes in our market for the last 3 years. And I can tell you that's really a true statement, because when you're out front, people are looking to topple you over. You're setting the trend, so to speak. So I think it is harder to stay at the top. And I've been really, really pleased with being able to do that and being able to attract the quality of agents that wanted to do that with me. So I'll tell you more about that. But the next thing I wanted to talk about was our new playing field, our competition. We've got Open Door, Knock, investment companies, Zillow, iBuyer programs, Purple Bricks. We got a lot of new people in the marketplace. Just last night, I was coming out of a restaurant where I'd eaten dinner, and I saw this big billboard, and it had the old way and the new way. And this was an advertisement for Open Door, which I'm really not picking on, just maybe a little bit. So the old way, it depicted a paintbrush. And the new way, there was a glass of champagne. And what this was trying to say to the consumers was, oh man, don't fix up your house. That's the old way to sell real estate. The new way is you just go online and you can get an offer, and that money's going to come out of the computer. And here's the deal. most consumers, most sellers don't know what that glass of champagne is going to cost them when they go to closing. And we're in the market to be in real estate long time after many of these online agencies are defunct, gone out of business. We're in the market at that point in time when they'll be around no more. Most of these guys don't live in the community. They don't know the schools. They really don't get it when it comes to real estate. So that's my thought about the new competition wave. I'm real serious when it comes to real estate. I don't just play real estate. I am in real estate to make it better for my clients. And one thing, again, about being out of production is you get a chance to see the forest instead of the trees. And when you think about real estate, you think about the changes that are happening there, you'll go back to my first point, which is most agents are playing a defensive game. They're playing a real estate defensively instead of having a forceful reason, a forceful plan of how to move the ball forward and how to grow their business. So I'm real serious. I don't play real estate. I play other things, but not real estate. So my mindset is really different, I think, than most of the agents. We started out this seminar saying, do you want to list 50 homes a year? And I wonder how many people on this webinar actually believe that they can list 50 homes a year. And I wonder if they really understand what the asset would be to their team or to their company, to themselves individually. Several years ago, I was in production on the listing side all by myself. And I love to throw it up to my team, if you want to use that term, that I've listed 42 houses in 1 month. And not a single one of my listing agents has equaled that yet, but they're still trying. And listing 42 houses in 1 month is a tremendous feat. But that was also, and that wasn't that long ago. But now, as we know, the playing field has changed. But what would it do? What would it do to your business, to your team, to your company, if you were focused on listing 50 houses a month, and maybe you focused on listing more than that, or whatever number that would be, that could change your business. It could change every day that you're in this business. I wrote down a couple of ideas about real estate and changing your mindset when it comes to real estate. And one of the things I wrote is that the average agent has a yesterday mindset of how much commission will I get? And that's what they're consumed about. They're jumping around from company to company, and they're going to earn 5% more commission over here and have 3% less monthly fees over there. And they're really not thinking that commission is not the game anymore, because commission alternatives have changed this industry. And some of it, the early changes I think were good, because they allowed the agents to have a position more control, especially the agents, the top 5% or 10% of agents who really thought about their business as a career. The old brokerage, when I first got in real estate, had the idea that there were a huge brokerage, that were big names in the business, and they really didn't do anything for their agents, except maybe run a couple of ads in the newspaper at that point in time. So the new model has changed, because there's teams out there that are coming up with unique propositions for their agents to be able to take over the market. In other words, they have a mindset that they want more market share that they've got by creating something that's totally different than the competition is. So I think the new mindset is the team leaders who maybe got an ISA department, who are very concerned about their online conversion and how many people are coming to their website, and how will that website affect people that are coming to the website? Will that produce somebody that's really interested in buying or selling? How do you convert it? How long do you keep up with them? So the next thing that they asked me to discuss with you is really what the top agents' mindset are like. And I can't tell you what the top agents' mindset are like, but I can tell you what my mindset is like. And what my mindset really is that if you give me 12 agents that will do less instead of more, that will do what our teams knows will work. 12 agents, 3 listing agents, I'll take over the town. It's just as simple as that. You have to find people that believe in your system. And I believe one of the things that's really wrong with the way we're doing real estate is that we're doing too much. And what I really want us to do is to think about how we can do less and do the less that we do to a much higher degree. For example, if you have 50 listings in your market, if you ran across a seller that was, shall we say, difficult, maybe he had a sellable house, but sometimes working with certain people reminds me of an old song. Sometimes the pleasure is just not worth the pain. And so if you really have 50 listings in mind every month, you can walk away from people who will be more trouble to you and to your team. Now, I want to give people a great service, but I also want them to respect how much me and my team and my agents are putting back into this business every single day. You know, recently, I had experience with another industry. And I'm not even going to tell you what the industry was because it's the same in any industry. And the mindset is that that person, let's say that agent or that person that works for that industry, is just there to get the next paycheck. And that's what I would tell you is the difference between somebody that really understands how to get 50 listings a month. I'm not here just to get the next paycheck. I'm here to get my seller the best advantage that I can give him in this market and to give my buyer the advantages that other agents can't give their buyers. I'm here to do more. I'm here to add value. And so that's very, very important to me. So to master listings, it all starts out from day one. The way you introduce a home to the market makes all the difference. You know, the power of the first impression. I wonder if we really think about that from our seller's point of view, because we're in such a hurry, and they're in such a hurry, and when they finally decide that they want a house sold, they want everything done very quickly, you know, almost like overnight. And that's not necessarily the best way to approach it. And I'm going to show you that as I unfold coming soon comes to you. But doing things haphazard, you've all seen a listing that went into MLS before the photos were right. You've all seen a listing that went in there and there was something wrong with it that was fixed maybe 60 days later, but you missed that advantage of being that, having that great, powerful first impression. And why is that so important? It's so important because you never can get a second chance at a second impression. And that first impression to the market that you give your sellers is crucial to their success. Now, if you have some quick success and you sell the home quickly, everybody thinks, oh, joy, joy, they did such a good job. But I want you to think about it. Did they really do a good job if they didn't bring all the buyers to the table? Coming Soon Homes brings all the buyers to the table because it gives a build-up to when you walk on stage. And when you've presented or when you've gone to a party, did you wake up on Saturday morning and before you brush your teeth or combed your hair, did you want to walk into the party looking like that? Well, of course you didn't. You wanted to put your best foot forward. And that's really what we do with Coming Soon Homes. We take time to build the audience. When you go to a rock concert or a country concert or whatever kind of concert, they don't bring the main liner out first. They do a build-up, and that's what we do with Coming Soon Homes. They get you there for about 2 hours, and 2 hours later, they bring the main attraction on stage. Well, that's what we're trying to do and what we've achieved with Coming Soon Homes. But most agents start marketing a home once it's ready for showings. But I don't want you to be average, I want you to be great. I want you to start marketing this listing the second you get it, but I don't want you to put it out there all together. I want you to tease the public. I want you to tease buyers. One of the things that we teach in Coming Soon Homes is as soon as our agent gets a listing, We want them to do a Facebook Live, and let's say if it's a real popular neighborhood, we want them to do what's called a whisper ad. Listen, I just looked at this great house that's in Falls River, a top subdivision. It's a 4-bedroom with a bonus room. You're going to love it. You're going to want to show everybody you know. If you're a buyer or an agent, you can find more information on comingsoonhomes.com, but I can't show it for 21 days because they're doing a few things to make a great presentation. And by doing that whisper ad next to maybe the entrance of the subdivision or maybe something that you think is very special to the market, you're going to tweak the interest of the market. So I don't want you to do things the way that everybody else does things. And here's another thing. When you go to get a listing, doesn't the seller sometimes want to drive the train or the plane? Doesn't he want to tell you what to do? I know that this system works so well that I don't let the seller sell me on what's going to work to get him the highest amount of money for his home. I tell him what's going to work. Most of the time, when you go out to get a listing, they're concerned about a couple of things. They're concerned about the speed of the sale, which is an important factor that you have to take into consideration. But I say 80% of the time, that seller wants to know, how are you going to get me top dollar? And what makes you different than this other agent over here that will give me a much less commission? So my answer to that is that you have to change what the seller is thinking will benefit him. You have to find out, number one, what he wants and then focus on that. I want you to be a master at what you love. I love to list homes. I decided early on in my career that I could list a home in a couple of hours and then do decent follow-up and decent marketing. But sometimes to sell a home, it took me many, many more hours. So I started focusing on listings early on. And I'm not saying that buyers are not important. They're very important. But what if you had a way to talk to your buyers that was different than your competition? You know, one of the things that I've taught my team, and I hate to hear them say is, well, I'll do a search for you and I'll get back to you. That sounds like every other agent in the market. What if you could say something like, you know, we list more homes than anybody else in this market, and I would love to give you a chance to see the homes that we're preparing for market so that you and your family could drive by that home and see if that home has interest for you. And if it does, we can get you an appointment the first day that that house comes on the market. You can be the first to see it. And that way, it's a little different than having the experience of seeing a great house that you really loved on Zillow, and by the time you drive by it, the sold signs up. It's a different experience that you can offer the buyer than your competition can when you have a Coming Soon Homes website. And of course, that works very well for the seller as well. So teamwork, you know, teamwork is a big deal. Some of people that I admire in this business are saying if you're not on a team right now, you'll either be working for a team or running your team in the next 3 to 5 years. So I think there's a lot to be said about teamwork. So recently, I told my team a couple of things about teamwork. The downside of teamwork, sharing the credit is a downside of teamwork. And you got to have teamwork to have a great team. Everybody wants to be the leader is a downside of teamwork. And everybody doesn't do the same amount of work. And you know, that discourages the people that are working really hard. Why do you want to do 50 listings a month? You want to do 50 listings a month because the market will react to that. If you don't have a great inventory, if that's not your main focus when you open the doors of your brokerage, you're playing defense. And I want you to play an offensive game. I want you to build not only your listing inventory, but the quality of your listings. So the number one team in town on listings means the phone rings. It rings a lot. Sales are made, and it means everybody on the team wins. And there's minimum standards for every team player. The basic way to improve teamwork is that everybody's got to believe in each other. And the leader has got to hold people accountable to the minimum standards, which is a challenge. I wrote down, be a man, not a boy, be a woman, not a girl, and be responsible and dependable, and don't let your team member down. To be a team member is a very important thing, and the real estate culture is all about me, I. And teamwork is going to change this. We're going to change this for a number of reasons. Number one, because it gives the public a better service. It's going to change the industry from the inside out. So really teamwork is my deal. Healthy brokerage competition. I'm fortunate enough to own a brokerage. There's some great agents that work at my brokerage. And for whatever reason, they're not intimidated when we compete against each other. I've been very fortunate to have some top team members. And of course, my whole brokerage uses Cummings & Homes. And that's been an advantage to our brokerage. But it's been an advantage to me to have what I consider top-rate professionals to work alongside of. You know, if you want to play golf, you play with better golfers. Your game improves. So I play with some of the best agents in town, not only on my team, but in my brokerage. Being a team leader has been a challenge from being a single agent with an assistant, which is the way I started out years ago. That's pretty easy to manage. You're only really responsible for yourself and maybe your assistant's information. But being a team leader is more difficult. And I think my biggest challenge in being a team leader is probably holding people accountable. Because I just believe everybody can do this business. But I can't, you know, those things that those mood rings that they have. We should have one for real estate. So this one gives, and the mood I want to get is the lack of their motivation. In other words, if they're red hot, I want to know it, because most of them can stand in front of me and they look great and they present themselves great. And I say, man, you're going to be able to do this just fine. But then I find out that their motivation is lacking. So that's been the hardest thing about being a team leader for me is not believing that somebody can make it, because I believe anybody can make it. The broker owner, these are some of my top team leaders. These are tremendous agents. I'm pleased to work with them. But I want you to start today to consider the specialization that I think is coming in this industry. The specialization on my team is, of course, listing agents as opposed to buyer's agents. There's just something different about listing agents. For example, you know, I had a buyer's agent last year that was struggling, really struggling with working with buyers and getting those buyers to be committed and all the things that needs to happen. But I switched that particular agent, and actually somebody on my team said, you know what? She's not doing so well as a buyer's agent, but I believe she's got what it takes to be a listing agent. And I'm proud to say that listing agent has listed over 35 properties for me this year, and she's made a killer listing agent. So some people's personality is better suited for the listing side than the buyer side. And I'd have to say that that's probably a smaller percentage of the agents that were out there. And one of the reasons for that is there's a whole lot more rejection in the listing side than there is the buyer side. So that's something to think about. The thing that we want to talk about is what are the old school sources for sellers to call you. Maybe it was a newspaper ad, maybe it was your reputation, maybe it was Zillow, which is changing like crazy. And some of those old school sources are still there on what I consider the new sources for real estate, which I can't seem to get right now. There you go. The new sources are online reviews. I think they go together with referrals, because I think neighbor still talks to neighbor, friend still talks to friend. I think the soul sign still works. What's so great is if you reduce real estate to the lowest common denominator, it's sell a house, tell the world you sold the house. Well, today with social media, you've got a lot more ways to tell the world you sold a house than just putting up the soul sign. So I would add to that. Reputation is really, really important in this business. Your Coming Soon Home website will give you people that are only coming to you because you train the market to come to you. And what's so great about that website is that when you get a lead on that website, 10 other agents on Zillow didn't get that lead. You're the only one that got that lead. And that's been very, very beneficial. So we've spent the last year learning how to increase the number of leads that we're getting for our Coming Soon Home site. Text is also big in this new world. And all those things are coming to us. But here's the thing. As you learn how to divert the Titanic, I'm going to call your business the Titanic. As you learn how to divert the Titanic to a new direction, it takes time to get in that groove. And so what you're going to do is every time something happens in the process that you didn't want that particular outcome, you go back to the process. Go back to what you can change about the process to make the outcome exactly what you wanted it to be. So that's what we do in Coming Soon Homes. My listing goals, if you're a national producer in any kind of sales business, they tell you that the national sales average is really 1 out of every 3. I honestly think in real estate it's probably higher than that. And I know when I listed 42 homes that I didn't go on 120 listing appointments. My listing average was somewhere around 75 to 85%. And that is a little bit of a difference. So I don't think you're going to have to go on 150 listing appointments to get to 50 listings. I think you're going to go on probably 75 to 85, most of the agents that we'd be talking to. So that's important. The next thing to know is we do qualify sellers before we schedule the appointment. Think about it. When an agent gets a call to come and interview for the job of selling your home, they're so excited to say, oh, I'll see you Tuesday at 3. And that's about the end of their conversation. But that conversation should be a very long conversation. You know, one of my mentors taught me years ago never to go into a meeting where I didn't know the agenda. And I see agents walking into listing appointments every single day where they're just so happy to be in front of somebody that they don't really know the agenda. So we definitely believe in a very rigorous pre-qualification for our sellers before we walk on site. Are you interviewing other agents? How did you find out about us? You've got to find your source so that you can perfect your listing process. How soon do you want to sell? Here's one that you should always ask. How much do you want for your home? And of course you'll get some of those answers back that say, well, that's what I'm calling you about. And I'm very well going to tell you what I think your home should list and sell for. But I've never met somebody that owned a home that didn't have a sense of what they wanted to get when they sold that home. So it's very important to go back several times and get as much information as you possibly can from the home seller before you step on site. And of course, then we do a pre-listing process where we sell to the seller. We schedule the appointment and we tell the seller things before we get there that we hope will focus his mind on the most important things. And the most important things is who's going to get what he wants to happen. If he's only interested in how fast his house can be sold, that's an important fact you need to know. If he's more likely interested in how much money he's going to net, which is also included in the question that they sometimes ask you, and that question is, I bet you all of you can tell me what that question is. How much do you charge for a commission? I love that question. And the answer to that question, by the way, is that's the first thing that we're going to talk about when we meet. That's one of the answers, and if you persist, I'll tell you more of the answers. So the pre-listing comes before the qualification, before the listing presentation. And you also, on your Coming Soon Home site, you've actually got an area for your success stories. And people are so online. One of the things that you could do is send them a link to your success stories on Coming Soon Homes. And this is going to help them review things about you. Other people are saying it about you. You're not saying I'm the best, I'm the greatest. Somebody else is saying something good about you, which is a third party is always better than a me, I presentation. So the pre-listing process is really important. We send an email. We also, if we have time, we send the pre-listing package along. We send some goodies. Sometimes we send a brownie. Sometimes we send personalized videos. Whatever we get from that lengthy conversation online, whatever we think is going to help in our arsenal of things, we're going to do that. And then, of course, we always confirm the listing appointment before we reach the house. So that's a really, really important sell. The most important thing about the listing appointments itself, of course, is your knowledge and your experience. It's a lot easier when you're the #1 listing team in town. But you know what? They're not really focused on you being #1 unless you can put it in terms that will help them. And how do you put that in terms? Especially when they're asking you about reducing commission. And one of the ways that you can do that is saying, I know, isn't that amazing? Some agents have no buyers and they charge no commission. And really some agents are just there for the next paycheck. And then some agents like us, you know, we really get into the process so that you can earn the most money when you sell this house, or whatever you think they need to be focusing on. So your listing appointments itself, show up early, review your pre-qualification. If you really have gotten their motivation and what's important to them, your listing presentation should be, majority of your verbiage should be questions that you're asking to the seller to come to an end that you both will enjoy. And that joy is that they will list the property with you, and you will be their listing agent. So that's what you want to do. You've got to present what they want in a way that sets their expectations about moving forward. So you get your final paperwork signed. I've told my listing agents, if you leave the house without the paperwork, which everybody's so fond of doing now because we got DocuSign and every other way in the world to be absent when those papers are signed. But I say if you leave that house without the paperwork signed, you don't have a listing. So I think it's important to get the paperwork signed. If you do get the paperwork signed, then you go out front, you put the sign down, you put a sign on the house, and use a coming soon rider to it. Now you're able, you marked your territory, now you're able to go to the neighborhood, and you should make a goal of touching 20 houses after you list a house. And you would say something to a homeowner like, Mr. and Ms. Smith have just hired us to sell their house, and we're so excited about doing this job for them. We're expecting a lot of traffic on this house, so if you have any trouble with traffic or anybody parking in a place that you don't want them to park, please call me. And so the first thing that neighbor, if that neighbor's there and you've made that presentation, the first thing they're going to want to know is what Mr. and Ms. Smith listed their houses for. And of course, then you get into a whole dialogue about their house. The second thing you want to achieve by knocking on doors is inviting them to a neighborhood open house where they would be the first ones to preview the house that Mr. and Ms. Smith have listed, and ask them to participate by, do you know anybody that you would like to tell about this new house in your neighborhood? So do you know anyone that might want to live in this neighborhood? And that gets you into a whole other dialogue. If your person that you knocked on the door is not there, then you leave a nifty little door hanger that says you just listed Mr. and Ms. Smith's house. You're expecting a lot of traffic. If they have any trouble with parking, please call me. You leave your name and number with as many people as you possibly can. Folks, the interest level when a house goes on the market is very, very high. We're blowing past it. We're losing prospects. We're losing energy from that first important few days that that house is available. By doing these simple steps, we're going to get that energy back into it. So I said about using the coming soon sign, you need to understand and explain to other agents and to your seller, this is not just a sign. This is a national website. Anybody can put up a coming soon sign. They're selling coming soon signs in every realtor store across this country. But what makes this different is this is not just a sign. This is a national website. We've actually gone into, if you call a moving company, they will give you the top 10 zip codes of people that are moving to your area. And you should be promoting your coming soon site to the areas across this country that are actually moving to your area. That's what you call very progressive marketing, as opposed to the way your competition is doing business, which is very haphazard and really doesn't have a solid plan. So we've got a solid plan at Coming Soon Homes to give your seller the very best information. I mentioned the quick teaser when you first listed the house. I have my listing agents always take a couple of pictures of the house, of the very best features. You don't want to overdo it because the house hasn't had your touch yet. You haven't sent your stager by. You haven't sent your professional photographer by. But there should be a few things about that house that you can pick out that will give a teaser promotion on it. So we do that teaser Facebook Live ad almost immediately. This is a copy of the door hanger that we use that says that we're going to have an open house, especially for the sellers in that neighborhood. So that gives them a private viewing. If you're going to do your open house from 1 to 4, you do the sellers open, neighborhood open from 12 to 1. So those are really important things to do. And then when you get back to the office, let your administrative assistant add the basic information on the listing. What's so great about the Coming Soon site is that once you have a really hot listing, you have information. Somebody's gone, let's say a prospective buyer has gone to that house. They really, really wanted to know about that neighborhood. So they favored this house. So every time you add some additional information to your Coming Soon listing, that buyer gets tagged again. And they say, we've got more information about this house. Maybe it's more pictures, maybe it's more verbiage, maybe it's something about the neighborhood, but it gives you a chance to touch that prospective buyer again for your seller. These are some of the, we've got one of my agents here is, we call her the swimming pool queen. She's jumped into more swimming pools than anybody else, and we've had a lot of fun. And she's had a lot of fun. She's done some great teaser ads because you should do 2 rounds of social media. And pretty soon we're going to do a whole seminar. I'm going to make Deborah do that one on the process that we go through from the time we list a home until the time we put the house on the market that will really rev up the public. And you know, that's what it's all about. I mean, if you do things the way that your competition does, you'll have the results that your competition does. You know, I don't want to get into politics, but I will tell you this. When the Democrats or the Republicans go to a convention, after they get out of that convention, they have what's called a bounce. Now, the same thing happens when you put a new listing on the market. There's a bounce of activity. You look it up. I know what I'm talking about. And then after a couple of weeks, it starts to slide down. So you don't want to miss giving your seller that opportunity. I've often said, tell me about the conversation you're going to have with a buyer's agent with a new listing you've just put on the market. That new listing is in a great neighborhood. I want to know about this new listing. How long has it been on the market? Well, it's been on the market 24 hours. Okay. Fast forward that new listing 75 days. Why has this house been on the market so long? You know it's true. You know it's true that the first part of that listing puts your seller in a position to have more power. He has more negotiating power. And if you blow past that, if you don't explain that to him, the reason that you're doing the process that you're doing, he's going to miss money. He's going to leave money on the table. And nobody likes to leave money on the table.
quickly, I just listed a home recently. They paid $1.3 million. They called me. They didn't call the agent that sold it to them. And they said the reason they didn't call the agent that sold it to them was they saw the agent that sold it to them in a store, and she said, "Oh, you paid too much for that house." Not a smart answer from an agent, by the way. But they are looking, the public is looking at how we conduct our business and how professional we are, the level of professionalism that we go to. So what's next? When you list a home as coming soon, you've got the time that you need to complete repairs. I advocate a pre-inspection. Again, I don't want to go into a meeting where the other person, the buyer, knows more about my house than I do. So I absolutely, I did it for my own house. When I sold my own house in the worst market we've had in the last 10 years, I did a pre-inspection. And I ran down every detail of that pre-inspection. Because what a seller is likely to do is say, "Oh man, it's been that way since I bought it." I do those things during the coming soon. I do the inspection, I do the cleaning, I do the staging, I do the professional pictures, I do the drone if necessary. There's lots of things that you should do during the coming soon period. And your timing, if you want to talk to me about how fast you should go with coming soon, you need to know your market. For example, we've got some major holidays coming up. I wouldn't advise anybody to put their home on the market on the Thanksgiving weekend, would you? Of course you wouldn't. Would you advise somebody to put on the market, their house on the market on Christmas? I don't think so. But did you know that the highest buyer week, the highest week that buyers are actually looking online to buy homes, and everybody knows that real estate starts online, is the week between Christmas and New Year's. So, Mr. Seller, if you don't want to have a sign on your house through the holidays, and I totally get that, I really would not advise you show your house any earlier than February 1st. But what I need to have is I need to have a presentation of your home online when most buyers are going to be there. And Deborah liked this the other day, so I'll have to remember to use it. I call that week the Black Friday of real estate. It's like, it's a powerful week. And you know, you're supposed to know what helps your seller. Instead of just dumping a house in MLS when they feel like it, when you feel like it, you need to know the ebb and flow of the market. And we study that, and I know you do that for your area as well. So if you have that house on the market during that week, even if you're not going to show that house until March, it is still worth your seller's time. Because when they dig out of the snow, or when they dig out of the threat of snow in my area, which stops everything, they will be looking at houses, and you want this house to be at the top of their agenda. So that's one thing I would talk about. Then, of course, your second round of social media should come right before you actually deliver the house to your market. And one of the things that we do is we know how long it's going to take for all the pictures of the house that we just listed to syndicate, not only to our local MLS, but to Zillow and all those other websites. So now we put our houses on the market on Thursday to have every single picture there by Friday, no later than Saturday morning, and then we schedule an open house for that weekend. If it's a hot, hot area, there's really no reason not to have 2 open houses. Saturday and Sunday, and then to look at all offers on Monday. You know, a long time ago in real estate, the phone used to ring. Right now in real estate, they want to text you, they want to go to your website. Very rarely do they pick up the phone. But if you take the time to do this process the way that you should, you will increase your number of buyer contacts for your new listing. And that's what you're in business to do, is to give that seller more, put him in front of more buyers that would make him an offer on his house and give him the advantage. So that's what we do. We do a double open house on a very hot, hot listing. And the amount of time that you keep a home on Coming Soon Home has to be regulated by your knowledge of the market. For example, in my market, it's still a very slow market in what we call high end. And so that's a reason for me to keep the house on Coming Soon Homes for a much longer time until I can feel the pulse of the market, till I can see how many people are actually looking at that house online and start to communicate with them. And then I would put the house online and we'd start showings. And maybe in my market, it might be 2 to 3 months for a high-end house. Now, what if I really had a house that would sell pretty much the first weekend I have it on the market? Whether I put it on the market this week or 3 weeks from now, it would be to my advantage, and actually it would be to my seller's advantage to wait the 2 to 3 weeks, even in a hot neighborhood. Because you know those buyers that are out there hawking, let's say a popular price range, they're the ones that are going to give you the most trouble to get them to the closing. If you do the work that's necessary to get every single buyer that would be interested to give your seller an offer on their house, you're going to be able to pick a buyer, not only a buyer that would give the highest price, but a buyer that would give the best terms, a buyer that would be the easiest to deal with during the inspection. And a knowledgeable, experienced real estate agent can pick that out, and I know you can as well. So, what comes next? You review all those offers, you go through that first weekend, you have that house sold, and now you've got a success story to share. So this is just a little bit about the process that we do. Of course, the under contract, the sold sign is what we want to start advertising to the market as soon as possible. And that's the way you get more additional sellers to your market. So it's free advertising. We ask our seller to always share with their friends the Facebook presentation. We put it on all the social medias. Don't forget your agent Facebook groups. They're a big deal. Those things are really, really important in today's world. You can do paid advertisement through Facebook. Has been especially beneficial for us. We can talk about some of those other things. We do something called slide dial for the open houses. We use something that drops out areas for the do not call list. So if we're going to do, let's say in a popular neighborhood, we might do a slide dial call that invites all the neighbors to that Coming Soon first open house that we're going to have that listing. And what that does is that shows those homeowners that live in that area that you're actually working, that you're doing something totally different than your competition is doing. And that's what will help you get more listings when you focus on that. So these are the 3 websites that my team has. All of those are really, really important, but the most important one, the one I love the most, is Coming Soon Homes, because I don't have to share those leads with any other agent in the marketplace. And also I'll tell you that most of the agents in my marketplace come to my website to find out homes that are coming on the market. So we have a strong a number of local agents.
So, Deborah told me to end this thing up by telling you if you join Coming Soon Homes for a limited time only, we're going to give it to you free until 2019. I'd love for you to ask me any questions that you have. I'm going to ask, I've got a few people here with me today. Have y'all got any questions you want to ask me about Coming Soon?
I got one good one that just came in. Do agents see distress? What's the power of putting the Coming Soon listing information on the site the moment you get the listing versus waiting until you get your verbiage and pictures? Why wait?
Well, it's a teaser. I mean, it's just a little bit of information. It's I don't think you have to wait until you get the presentation completely all polished and every detail in order, because you do want to do the build-up. You do want to do the teaser ads. When they're showing you a trailer for a new movie that's getting ready to come out, they're not showing you every aspect of that movie. They've only picked out 2 or 3 scenes that they think are real action or real attention getters. And that's what you want to do with your teaser ads. You do your second round of social media ads towards the end of the listing, where you really have to put all your bells and whistles in, all your great verbiage in, and you're really making the best presentation of this house that you possibly can. So that's the reason you do the teaser ads and the final word of that.
Perfect. Another good one is Zillow has a coming soon section. So can you give us a little bit of an understanding of what is a benefit of using Coming Soon Homes national website for coming soon listings versus Zillow?
Well, I love it because when you go to Zillow in our area and you show our sellers how many Zillow homes are on Coming Soon and you compare to our local site of Coming Soon Homes, we blow them away. So that's what you've got to work towards. And you've got to believe that you can get there. You won't get there overnight. You know, Deborah always likes it when I use the term, you gotta drive it like you stole it.
Yes.
Yeah, this thing does not work itself. It's a new way of doing business. And it's really simplistic, but you're gonna be tempted because the seller's gonna tell you, oh, I've gotta have it on the market this weekend. Oh, I've gotta have this, I've gotta have that. But you gotta be confident. And see, I've sold enough homes through the Coming Soon process that I know what it can do. I know it can take a seller of mine who is going into a rest home and I can get, maybe 17 offers on her house, sell her house $40,000 over list price with no appraisal contingency. And that, my friend, was accomplished because I took the time to do it. Was it easier for me to do it that way than it was to sell it the first weekend? Actually, no, it was not easier. Going through 17 offers is a lot of work, but my seller made out. And I'll go to bed every night knowing that I put $40,000 extra in that woman's pocket. And that's such a benefit when you're able to do that for people who really deserve every dime they can get from their equity. Next, Deborah.
Another good one. So we have an agent, Donna Lloyd. Hey, Donna, out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. She said her market, they're required by the Real Estate Commission per listing contract to list every single home at the end of 21 days in MLS to be able to market as coming soon. What would you do to work around that 21 day?
Well, I'm not sure that I could work around 21 days. I think 21 days, in many cases, 21 days is sufficient amount of time to do a coming soon presentation. In my market, high end might not be served well by 21 days. So we have a withdrawal form, and believe me, we've worked with all these things that our local board has put in place to, what would you say, so that one agent won't have an unfair advantage. Listen, pocket listings have been in this industry for 100 years. This is not a pocket listing. This is a listing that you're preparing for market that will go on the market at some point in time, which brings up another point, is I don't share my coming soon listings. I don't give my team preference. When the house goes on the market, my team competes with every other agent in town and every other buyer in town. Coming Soon Homes is an asset for a seller, not for an agent. And what I found out is if you give the seller the highest service you could possibly get him, you're going to do just fine in the long run. But you have to keep that forefront in your mind. It's not to get the next paycheck. It's to really do the business differently than your competition does. So I hope I answered that, but we can talk more specifically about that.
I got another really good question from a broker owner. How would you help motivate your agents and shift that mindset for beginning marketing listings once they're active versus getting ahead of the market and starting is coming soon? How would you motivate the brokerage?
You know, motivation to agents, boy, if I knew that question. I could do that. I'd be in great shape. Like I said, I think everybody, I used to use this saying all the time, I think any fool could do this business because I did it. But the truth of it is motivation is an internal thing, and how can we really do that? The only thing I can tell you for sure is by the time you hear something in real estate, it's already happening. You hear rumors of something, and really it's already happening on the streets. Right now there's a little bit of talk of shifts in certain price ranges. I read something the other day that said the market will be basically the same in 2019 as it was in 2018. I guess the shift, the motivation I would get is go back to the agent's why. I mean, why are you in business? Why do you spend 40 hours a week doing something? I go back to I'm serious about this business. I'm not playing. When I first got into real estate, I was in Atlanta, and everybody in the office, besides me, was a doctor's wife. Now, they bought some serious priced houses, and they had some great referrals from their doctor network. Well, I didn't have that. So I had to figure out another way to provide for my family. So it really goes back down to agent motivation is why. Because I know logic is going to win out. And I know that you know that the quality of your listing inventory is going to determine who's going to call you on the phone. It's going to determine the quality of the buyer that calls you on the phone. It's going to determine whether or not you're going to be able to access that buyer and talk that buyer into working with you as opposed to your competition. So you got to find out the agent's why in order to get them motivated.
Love it. Another really good one. This is a little bit logistical about local MLS. Terry Graff said agents were complaining that they didn't have a fair advantage in her market, so the board and the board attorney has now made it official. It's only 24 hours from Inc. to MLS, so they are fined $1,000. Do you have any creative ideas, Marty?
I love it. You're winning.
Yeah.
When I first started Coming Soon Homes, I got anonymous letters to the board about me, and I got one anonymous letter to me. I've kept it somewhere. I'll send it out. Maybe it says, "And we are a group of hard-working agents." And it went on and on. But the truth of it is when they're pushing at you, you're going in the right direction. If not, you can just go the flow of everybody else and you could end up where they're going. I've looked at the average earnings of a real estate professional in this business, and maybe that's good enough for you. When I was raising my family, that was not a good enough income for me. I needed to figure out a way to do less instead of more. And that's the reason I know that the Coming Soon Home process will teach you how to focus on the things that are the highest income producing things that you can do. Your board, there's two ways. You can be with them if you're a really good salesman. You can hire a lawyer, which we have done in the past. We actually have agents in our Coming Soon process that are partners with us that have gone. I have an agent, a favorite agent of mine, who ran Coming Soon, did such a great job with it. She had 35% of her market. And then all of a sudden, after she'd run it for years, then the whole board started saying, that's unfair advantage. Well, she hired a lawyer, went to the board and said, you can't tell me how to do this because I'm doing this in an ethical manner. Here's all the ways that we're following it, abiding all the rules and the regulations of the board. So it really just depends on how committed you are to doing something different in your market. Somebody's going to do it. There are things that are changing in the Coming Soon process. We have agent partners right now that 2 years ago their board thought exactly the same way that your board did. But it changed because the market's changing, because there's different players out there. So I hope that helps.
Her response to you is, we're thinking about it. I remember your story from meeting you in Vegas a few years ago. So awesome. Thank you so much, Terry. I'm going to go ahead and get one more really quickly from Linda King. She says, what happens when the pre-approved buyer goes to what happens when the pre-approved buyer goes to finalize his financing on a home he just bought? The bank requests an appraisal and it falls short of what the buyer paid for the house.
In my market, if you've really found all the buyers, you're going to find that buyer. If you think the house is going to sell above appraised price, when's the best time to talk about that? In the example I just gave you a few minutes ago, the lady that was going to the rest home, I knew this house was in the 200s. I knew this house was not going to appraise for what we had sold it for. So I addressed that up front. And so I was able to get a buyer that said, we don't care what it's appraised for, we're going to pay X amount. And there's forms that you can use for that. And if you don't have one in your board, get a lawyer to make that form up for you.
So it is a wrap. We've now just hit 4 o'clock. Hope everybody really enjoyed today's webinar. If there are still questions that you have from today's session, go ahead and still keep popping them in the comment section, either on the Facebook Live or on the actual webinar channel. We'll make sure to get all your questions answered. We will also be following up with everybody that had registered to ensure that you get a full pre-recorded video of all of this fabulous right here. So last but not least, I just want to finalize it with some great feedback I just got from Donna. She said, goodness gracious, I have loved getting to see Marty in action. That woman rocks. I've admired her for a long time, but to catch her in her energy and see what success looks like on her, how it inspires me. So super, super grateful. We are going to be doing a once-a-month webinar for anybody who wants to learn about more real estate, whether you're an individual agent, a team leader, or a broker owner. We want to talk to you and help you stand out in your business and additionally in your market. Coming Soon Homes only partners with a very limited number of agents per market. So we want to talk to you, see how our business can help your business grow. As we mentioned earlier, we are offering any new prospects free subscription to our entire system until 2019. So that is going to be a huge savings. The only thing you're going to be responsible for is a one-time setup fee. We'll come right in. We have a killer training and implementation program. We're going to make sure you're up and running very, very quickly, and so you can start generating leads really quickly too. So,
and one more thing, if anybody's still there, I got to say that it's really awesome as a team leader or a member of the company when you find people that are killer team people. And Deborah has done more for our Coming Soon partners than you could ever imagine. If there was ever anybody that under-promised and over-delivered, it's Deborah. She's done tremendously. She'll give you so much more to use on social media than you ever dreamed possible that will bring those leads in. You really have got to have this gal on your team too.
I'll be an extension of your business per se, so that's all it is. So hopefully everybody enjoyed today's webinar. Again, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. Everyone will be getting a recording session following the webinar, and we'll hope to see you guys next month. See you later. Bye.